Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to work through a couple of examples of combining those transformations all into one function. So if you recall from the previous video, our first step is we need to identify our parent function. Well, this one's pretty easy to tell that this is our uh, absolute value. And if I just like to write down a little copy of what the parent function looks like, it looks like it's the v for absolute value. Okay, so it looks like a v. All right, so the next step is we need to identify our transformations. So let's go ahead and do that. The first one, so remember, I'll write it up here at the top for us. We need to stretch it first, stretch it, and then we flip it, and then we shift it. Stretch it, flip it, shift it. That's the order that we're going in here. So the stretch, I'm looking for those multiplying constants on the front end here, and I see that I am stretching it, or in this case, I am compressing it by a half. So it's going to make it look fatter. So this is the first step that we're going to do. And what are we doing? We are multiplying our x values by a half. So we're actually our y values, excuse me, multiplying our y values by a half. Y values. There we go. All right. The second one, we need to flip it. We're looking for any negative signs out in front with those stretching or compressing constants there. And I do see one. So this is step number 2. And what are we doing here? We're reflecting this over the x-axis when it's on the outside. So we are going to we are negating our y values. Negating our y values. Okay, now we've stretched it, we flipped it, now we got to shift it. So this is that final step where we look for those constants on the inside and on the back end. And I see both of those. So this is step number 3. So this -3 on the inside here, this guy right here, it's moving. We're thinking it's moving to the left because, oh, it's -3. It's got to be over here. But remember, we set that x -3 equal to 0, and we see that the x value is actually +3. So we're actually moving to the right. So this guy is we are moving it to the right 3 units, which means we are going to add 3 units to our x values because that's a horizontal shift. Okay. And now this this other green guy, this +2 on the back end here, this is a vertical shift. So we are going to, this is going to move it down 2 units, which means we are subtracting 2 from our y values. Great, we have identified all of our shifts. Now we just need to adjust our key points. Now for the absolute value, we have a key points of 0, 0, and it just follows a line. So 1, 1, and then 2, 2. And then on the other side, we can have negative. So -1, the absolute value of -1 is also 1. And the absolute value of -2 is also 2 as well. Okay, so we have our parent key points. Now we just need to start doing the transformation. So first thing we're doing is we're multiplying our y values by a half. So let's do that. Keep the x values. That still stays 0, 0. That stays at 1. This now turns into a half. Stays at 2. This now turns into a 1. -1 stays. This again goes to a half. That's what that says, 1/2. And -2 turns into, or that +2 turns into a 1. Okay, so we've done our first transformation. Check. Now we need to go to our second one, which is in the red here. So we're going to just negate those y values. Very easy for you. If you feel like pausing the video and just doing it on your own and then replaying it, go right on ahead. So 0 stays with 0, 1, and now -1/2. to negative 1, negative 1, negative a half, and now we have negative 2, negative 1. Okay, so in the red, check. Now we need to shift it. I'm just going to do exactly what I did in the transformation videos. I'm just going to do it all in one step. So the first thing we're doing is we are adding 3 to our x values. So that means 0, 0, that goes to 3. This 1 goes to 4. This now goes to 5. Add 3 to negative 1, we get positive 2. Add 3 to negative 2, we get positive 1. And then we are subtracting 2 from our y value. So this is now negative 2 there. Subtracting 2, we get negative 2.5, or negative 3 halves, if you will. This goes to negative 3. Again, negative 2.5. And then also negative 3. So now we have our completed list of our transformed parent function key points, and now we're just going to plot and graph. So we have 3, negative 2, which is going to be our vertex point. 3, negative 2, that's our vertex point. We have 4, negative 2.5, 4, negative 2.5, which is right there. And then 5, negative 3. And this guy is a mirror of itself, just like the quadratic one is. So I can just plot those points over there. And then again, this make sure that this is a straight line. You would use a ruler for this, or a straight edge. Okay, moving on to example number 2, or example 3 in the entire set. All right. First thing we need to do is we need to identify our parent function. This is one of those reciprocal ones. So we have the 1 over x, and it looks like those dueling, what are those things called? Boomerangs. There we go. Dueling boomerangs things. Okay. And we need to worry about some asymptotes while we're in here. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to identify our transformations. And remember, we need to stretch it, flip it, and then shift it. So stretching first, we need to, are there any constants that are multiplying on the outside? Well, in fact, it is this 2 right here. Why is it that 2? Well, if we took 2 times 1 over x, minus 1 in this case, that equals 2 over x minus 1. Okay, so that is the constant multiplying on the outside. All right, so let me just get rid of this. Okay, so that is our first step. This is a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. So we're going to multiply to our y values. Okay, next up is we need to find any not negations, but we need to look for any negatives on the front end, multiplying the entire function. And that refers to our reflections. I don't see any, so we're not going to do any of those. And now, so we don't need to flip it, so now we just need to shift it, and I do see some shifts. I see one shift there. This is inside the function. Remember, anything in the denominator is technically inside the function. So we're shifting it left or right horizontally. X minus 1, that is a horizontal shift to the right 1, which means I'm going to add 1 to my x values. I also see this negative 4 hanging out outside on the back end. This is a vertical shift. This guy is going down 4 units, which means I'm going to subtract 4 from my y values. Okay, so I've identified all of my transformations. Now I need to adjust my key points. Okay, and we also have some asymptotes. We have a horizontal asymptote, which has the form of y equals, and that's at 0. We have a vertical asymptote, that is at x equals 0. And our key points, we have the points 1, comma 1, and we also have negative 1, which goes to negative 1. All right, so now we need to adjust these things. We're going to multiply our y values by 2. That doesn't change any of our asymptotes, but it does change our key points. We have 1 comma 2 now. We keep the x value there. That's now negative 2. Excellent. The ones in blue is done. Now I need to shift it. I'm going to do all the x values first and then all the y values second, just so that I can do this all in one step. So we need to add 1 to all of our x values. So that puts my vertical asymptote at x equals positive 1. So I'm just going to draw that in right there. And then this is going to change our point here. 1 plus 1 is 2. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. And now that one's done. So now I need to subtract 4 from my y values. That's going to put my horizontal asymptote at y equals negative 4. Draw that in right there. And now if I take the 2 minus 4, I get negative 2. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. All right, so I've done all of my transformations. Now I just need to plot those points, since I've already plotted my asymptotes, and then graph it, and I'm done. So I got a point 2, negative 2, 2, negative 2, and then 0, comma, negative 6, which is right there. And remember, when we're doing these things, we're going to start really close to that asymptote right there, and then slowly work our way out, and then go right back there. Start really close, work our way out, make sure you go through that point, make sure it's curvy, and go really back close to the asymptote again. And there you go. So I hope this really helped you guys solidify some holes that you had. And as always, be safe and be healthy during this time, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.